We have choices.
Hi, everybody. Helen from Positive Space here. Today, I'm going to talk to a former guest. She's here again tonight, Christina Mathieson Segura. And aside from being one of the most successful real estate people on Long Island, more importantly, she is a breast cancer survivor. Christina went through, she went through chemotherapy, a double mastectomy, and also reconstructive surgery. And during this journey, she decided to record all of it, which quite frankly, I think was very brave. Okay. So what's happening tonight is we're going to talk about her documentary, why she did it, why and where she wants it to go. And I think the people involved up there are Deborah, Nikki, Lori, myself, and Christina. And the 5 of us are all breast cancer survivors. So I would like to introduce my guest, Christina Mathieson Segura. Hey, Christina.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to talk about what inspired you to do this, because I know when I was going through my treatments, I think you were very brave to just let it all out. So what inspired you to do it?
Well, when I first got diagnosed, I had so many questions, and what I really wanted to know, we've talked about it, in the past, where everybody has a different reaction. It's usually not good. Society teaches us that the worst words you could ever hear is that you have some form of cancer. It's something that none of us want to hear. So we immediately go to the really dark, negative place of, am I going to die? I'm not ready to die. I don't want to go through this. It's just a bad thing. And I started to look for, number one, information on what was my journey going to look like? What was going to happen? So I met with the surgeon, who was wonderful, Dr. Melissa Fana in Bayshore at the Imbert Cancer Center. And she told me it was going to be basically a year of my life. And in that year of my life, I was going to have chemo. I didn't know about the radiation because that happened on the tail end. I would have surgery, but I didn't know about all the details. Like, what was my quality of life going to be like? What was it like to get chemo? What was it like to have the surgery? What was going to lead up to it? How was I going to feel? How was my family going to be? Like, a million questions. So really what I needed to do was to speak to women that had gone through it, women that got diagnosed with breast cancer, the same as me, the same as you, came out on the other side, and they were okay. I just wanted to know that I was going to be okay. And I wanted to have that firsthand experience, really, I guess, secondhand, like, what was their experience? So one of the women that I ended up connecting with was Lori Zabrocki, who's in the documentary. And she was very forthcoming, gave me lots of info. When I asked her about chemo, she said it was doable. So she didn't say it was nothing, and she didn't say it was awful. She gave me enough inspiration that she did it, other women did it, and she was okay. So, I couldn't find that. And I thought, well, if I'm a pretty resourceful, relatively intelligent woman, if I can't find this somewhere, other women that are about to go through this, because as we know, 1 in 8 women on Long Island in particular get diagnosed with some form of breast cancer in their lifetime, which is a horrible statistic. If I can't find these resources, I can't go through this journey for nothing. I'm going to document it so I can help the next person. So that's really why I had to do it.
How often did you document it? Just on your treatment days or on your days off when you were home? Did you do it every day? How often did you work on it?
I did videos usually, at 5 or 6 in the morning when everybody else was asleep. I knew that it was important to share my feelings and, like, the rawness of it. I didn't want it to be some fake or phony thing. Lord knows the pictures are not, they're not beautiful. They're not the images that I wanted as a businesswoman to be out in the world. But I think that this mission is way more important than what I look like with no hair like that. Like, this is way more important. There are going to be women that are going to go through this, that are going to have this look, right? We're going to have either the scarf or the hat or whatever it is that we have. And you need to identify with other women that went through the same thing and know that their hair's going to grow back. To know that they're okay, that they're, here I am, I'm sitting in my office, I'm back to work, I'm thriving, I'm great. That was me with crazy silver haired wig. I had fun with the wigs for like 5 minutes. And then it was like, okay, I don't like the wig anymore. But
it's funny you say that. I was a baseball cap girl or a wig girl. I tried the scarves and they just didn't work. There you have it, right there. I was a baseball cap girl.
I didn't want to go with the scarves because I felt like that would make me look like a cancer patient. And even though I thought of myself as I was working on a project. It was like the breast cancer project. I never really thought while I was going through it that I was sick. So to answer your question, if I was going through something in particular, I think that's when I made a video. So in the very beginning, when I was going through all of these phases of different kinds of scared and finding out more information. And one of my big speed bumps was the fact that they wanted me to get an MRI. And I was extremely claustrophobic. So I tried everything and couldn't get it. The odd thing that I thought was, and we talk about this in the documentary, you can get pictures on Mars, but my boobs are right here and you couldn't get a great picture of it. I don't understand. You have to put me through a tube. So I had a lot of anxiety about that. I had so much anxiety about the unknown that it made it even more important for me to really document all of this, because there's got to be other women that are going through this that have exactly the same thing that we had. Like, what's going to happen? How is this going to be? How am I going to end up? Is there going to be anything permanent? Like, how does this even work?
Well, the amazing thing I think that is coming across in your documentary is that it's believable and it's raw and it's honest. And I think women are really going to appreciate that you don't sugarcoat a lot of the stuff, which I think is so important when you're going through this journey. But tell me about the title. Where did you get this title from? I'm okay, you'll be okay too, the journey through and beyond breast cancer. How did you come up with that particular title? Because I know when I'm writing, I will sit for hours to try to figure out a title. How did you come up with that one?
Throughout the course of me making the videos, I would always sign off, maybe after a month of this. And I didn't do it every day. I just did it when I had something to share. And I realized that I was making this for the future people. So at the end, when I would, I was going to do like sign off and say bye, I would say, I'm okay and you'll be okay too, because that's what I wanted. So that was the first part of it. And so that became organically the title. And it is the journey through, but beyond is really what we want to focus on. The beyond of breast cancer. So the title just was obvious to me.
Now, when you told people about this, were you met with any negativity at all? I would think not, but you couldn't have been met with any negativity.
When I told people that I was documenting it?
Yeah.
People were shocked. They were surprised. They were supportive. They were, they would almost like scratch their heads like, who does that? So I don't know if I'm just, the typical crazy nut, or if I was really just driven to do something that needed to be done. Like, it was something that I needed. I needed this. And so no, I really wasn't met with negativity. I'm sure that there's going to be comments when it comes out, like, how could you let anybody see you look like that? I don't know. That's kind of what I'm afraid of. But at the same time,
who cares? I mean, do you really care?
No, I don't. No. I'm not doing it for the average person. I did it because there will be women like us who are just going about their daily lives and going to work and having a good time and going out and whatever else it is that they do. And the unexpected happens, whether it's breast cancer, whether it's a crisis, whether it's something else, it's going to hit you in a minute. I have a very dear friend who had an experience where she was in a devastating car accident and her life changed in an instant, and she didn't have a minute to prepare for it. And in a lot of ways, I think that I was much more fortunate because I could wrap my head around this. Not that it was a great thing to wrap your head around. It made me a little crazy for a while. I had very bad anxiety. I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. My heart would be pounding because I was scared to death. Another reason that it was so important to share this, that nobody should feel that there's anything wrong with being scared to death. Like, it's okay to have those feelings. But my dear friend explained it to me, and not in a negative way, that you're going to have time to prepare for this. You know that you're going to go through chemo. You know that you're going to have surgery. You know that there's going to be a recovery period. Like, I could kind of plan for those things and for being, not at my best. And for that, I'm very, very grateful.
Was there anything that you put on video that you regret?
No, not a single thing. I wanted to have it be that I shared everything. I think one of the most powerful things that I shared was one morning I was going through chemo, and it's exhausting. It makes you tired. It makes you feel weak. It makes you not feel yourself. It makes you a little bit foggy in the brain, which to me is not good. None of it was good. I don't think it's good for anybody, other than the obvious health benefits, and saves my life. But that morning I made a video, and I do yoga every morning. I don't stand on my head. I don't do that advanced stuff, but I stretch everything that I have for about 20 minutes every day. And I was sitting on the floor, and I was just so weak. And I remember making a video saying, I don't know that I can do this today. I feel awful. I can't, I'm afraid it's going to take me 5 minutes to get up. And I just was weak. And later in the day, I made another video because I took a shower. I put my baseball hat with the hair on it, right? It had hair Velcroed into it. It was the greatest thing. And I was wheeling and dealing. I felt better. And at the end of the day, I said, you know what? I took a bad day, and I made it great. And that's really what I wanted to convey, that even though you're going through something, it doesn't mean every part of every day is gonna suck. Like, you're gonna go through it, but there's still gonna be amazing, great moments where the kindness of people, of strangers, your family, your partners, everybody is gonna just blow you away.
Describe the mood in the studio when Steve and Charlie were there. Describe when Lori, Deborah, Nikki, you and I were there. Describe how that went swimmingly. Everybody was sharing, and everybody was just, eager to tell their story. Right. Tell me what you thought the mood was.
I was very inspired by all of the other women and the journeys that they had gone through. I was grateful for Steve and Charlie. So Charlie was recording videos, Steve was asking questions, and he's just amazing in his ability as an interviewer and a journalist, and somebody who's just so eloquent, that he was such a good listener. And if we needed to have additional stuff kind of pulled out of us, he very gently did that. I know that some of the women were a little bit scared because they hadn't publicly told their stories, or it's been a while since they, had these thoughts again, and they were afraid that emotions were going to come up. And it really was such a warm environment because we had all been through a similar experience. When I say similar experience, there are different levels of it. So everybody hadn't had chemo. Everybody hadn't had a double mastectomy. Everybody hadn't had radiation. There are so many variations of this. And optimally, as much as I want this documentary to be the story of you can get through it, get the treatment, you'll be fine on the other side, I think it's also so important to make people understand that one of the women didn't have to have any of those things, right? She had a double mastectomy and reconstruction. She didn't have to have chemo. You didn't have to have a double mastectomy and reconstruction, but you did have to have chemo. The bottom line is, until this disease is eradicated, we have to be vigilant in making sure that we get mammograms, that we have doctors, that we routinely do it, because when you catch it early, you're going to be fine. Don't wait. Don't put it off.
Yeah.
And we want to make it okay to talk about.
Don't forget the self-breast exams, either
100%.
the mammograms, the sonograms, absolutely. The MRIs even too, but the self-breast exams, that's how I found my lump.
Yeah.
So,
it's important. It's all important.
Yeah.
And you can't be scared. If you find something and you found it, you know, just go. Just go get it taken care of. Yeah, it's going to change your life for a minute.
I have a question for you. I have a ton of questions for you. The mammograms. I push people now, nag people, push them to get their mammograms. Have you find, since you've gone through this experience, that you do the same thing? I really kind of nag people. I've gotten 3 people to go for their mammograms. All good, thank God. But do you find that as well now, that you kind of push the self-care a little bit more?
I don't know if I do that more. I will always share my story, but I don't think that I do that as much. I think that I make it known, but if it was my close friends and family, yes, I do it with my daughters. But if it was, you know, I wouldn't do it to strangers. I don't know. I think it's admirable that you do that. I think that it's great. I don't think that that's something that I routinely do.
Nobody argues with me, you know, because I launched into my story that the whole 9 yards, and they listened. But I think they're happy to get away from me. But I do follow up with them. Did you go yet? Did you do this yet? And the gentle, we'll call it gentle nudging, but I'm glad that I did that, because I did get 3 people that, you know, would say, "My last mammogram was 10 years ago," and I'm trying not to jump up and down and do that whole thing.
Yeah.
But when in the studio, I wanted to get back to the studio. What insight did you get? Any new insights from the girls or myself? I've got plenty of new insights, just to see how brave we all are. But did you come away with any new insights at all?
After we had the conversation when we were filming with all of the women, I so many times looked at them and listened to their stories about what they went through, and I thought, oh my goodness, they're so brave. Oh my goodness. It almost seems like what I went through is a blur now, even though it was real as real could be. I guess that's the way that the human mind works, right? When you have something kind of traumatic or big, it gets lessened over time. One of my takeaways was that we had all had such similar feelings, even though our circumstances were so different. I knew that going in, but I didn't know the degree that would, you know, it was pronounced, and it made me even more positive that doing this documentary was something that we all needed. We all went through, you know, the emotional roller coaster of finding out you were diagnosed. One woman wouldn't say that she had cancer, right? One woman, we talked about, what do you not say to women that have breast cancer, and how many of us didn't really want to share it, or some of us did. Everybody went about it in a different fashion.
Well, let me ask you this. What should you not say to somebody who's been diagnosed with breast cancer?
With breast cancer or with anything else. So from the 2 of us who have gone through this, one of the things that I think is a generic positive thing to say when somebody gives you news of an illness is, that's horrible news. I'm sorry that you have to go through this, but I am sure that you're going to be okay. And if you need anything, I mean it, you should call me, and stay in touch with that person. You know, you mentioned, somebody said, and I remember distinctly, oh, I hope everything will be okay. Like, that's not what you say, right?
No. Thank you for remembering that, because it was on the tip of my tongue that I hope it works out. Well, no. I know it's going to work out. Yeah, that throws me. That would always throw me, and a lot of people would say that to me. But also, the next thing is, I don't ask what stage. I don't think that's necessary to know.
I don't think so either. And I don't think that any of us should get caught up in whatever numerical stuff and whatever medical stuff there is. So I don't know if I went through Northwell Health and that amazing system, and I have an app that's got all of my health records in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go and scroll through and see all of my test results. That's like the last thing. Here's looking on WebMD as the worst thing you should do. The next thing is joining Facebook groups where people have nobody else to talk to and their situation is nothing like yours, and participating in that negativity and so on and so forth, right? So going into that app and getting into the weeds of what's going on, I personally chose to leave that to the medical community, who I adored, who took amazing care of me, the nurses, the doctors, everybody. But I chose to stay out of that, because if I started to read it and there was a word I didn't understand, I would immediately Google it, and that takes you to dark places.
I will say, yes, that is, if anybody gets anything out of this talk tonight, do not Google, because that made me crazy, because there would be one story, then there'd be the other story. And do you know, to this day, every once in a while, I'll Google and I catch myself and I put it down and say, walk away, walk away, walk away. Do not do that. Now, what kind of audience do you want to reach? Where do you want this to go, Christina?
I would like it to live somewhere, so that for right now, when people are not, they don't have either themselves, their mother, their sister, their aunt, their daughter, their cousin. Well, nobody has breast cancer and they don't want to watch it. That's cool. But if the time should come, God forbid, that someone in their circle needs to have a frame of reference and needs to know that they're going to be okay, I'd like to have it readily available. I'd like to share it within the medical community, so that when women are first diagnosed, they can see, the positive side of it. And I didn't want to make this documentary. I didn't want to share my videos on YouTube while I was going through it, because I didn't want anybody to have a negative thought about it. Even though in the beginning you would think that there is really nothing positive that comes from having breast cancer, I strongly disagree. And I wanted to start this from, I'm really great. I'm great now. You'll be great too. This was what I went through, but I'm great. And I don't want anybody to get a different message.
I absolutely love that. Tell me more about that you were great and that it wasn't a negative experience. How was it a positive experience for you, aside from you and I meeting, which is wonderful?
Right.
But how was it a positive experience? How did it change you? What's the lessons? What's the blessing?
I learned that I had to rest, and I had never in my 56 years of life rested. I had a bunch of kids. I was a single mom, and I was always go, go, go. Mm-hmm. And now I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to sit on the couch for 10 minutes. It's wonderful. It's very liberating to know that it's okay, that I'm not a failure as a woman or a mother or a grandmother, that I choose to rest every now and then. I think that I know that it absolutely created the most amazing, strong bond with my husband. Something that we went through together. And if anybody tells you, look, he's so handsome. If anybody tells you that your partner doesn't go through that with you and doesn't have their own set of challenges, you should really talk to him, Helen. He's got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about.
I'd love to.
So if, that's not true for the partners or the family of people that go through this. They have their own stuff that they go through. My children, the stuff that they did for me, it made me realize, as a parent, I know that I adore my children and my grandchildren and my stepchildren and my family and everybody. But what I realized was they really loved me. And it sounds stupid, but the things that they did just opened my eyes to, they each had to do something to help me. They each had to do something, who would go and get me a sandwich from the old neighborhood? Who would come and cook for me? Who planted my flowers? My kids made me a love garden when I was too weak to plant anything. And they
Now,
created this whole thing, and I will never forget that.
now everybody should know that you went through this during the pandemic,
Yes.
right?
It is my
So,
feeling that the world closed so I can just get through this and get done with it. And then the world opened again, which I think was very nice.
well, we're appreciative,
Mhm.
absolutely. Did that have any bearing on your treatments or anything like that during the pandemic? Because as you know, my biopsy was canceled. So my
Yes.
cancer went up to a lymph node. So
Right.
that's when I ended up having the radiation, as you know.
Right.
But did that have any bearing on your treatments at all?
The only bearing that it had on my treatment was that everything that I went through, I had to do alone. So when I went for chemo, I had to go alone. And it used to be that you could have somebody go with you, because oftentimes you're there for a number of hours. And I honestly have to say that other than me, being scared to death, I probably would have been much more of a pansy if I would have brought somebody with me. Like, I would have been more weepy. I think I was braver by myself.
Okay, we have 1 minute to go. When's this coming out? Tell us all about it. When's it coming out?
October of this year. I don't know where it's going to be. It's definitely going to be part of the Chapters Network, and we're just finishing up the final touches of it. And it'll be released somewhere. At least it will be online, and I hope it gets in everybody's hands that needs it.
Absolutely. Christina, as usual, outstanding. Thank you very, very much. And we'll see you all next week, everybody. Thanks.
Helen, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next week.